Let's talk about the nature of reality. And I gotta warn you, it's not nearly as solid as you'd like to think. We're about to dive into a serious glitch in the human mind, a kind of backdoor that lets fear spread like an actual virus.
Right? You think you're in complete control, that if you saw something completely impossible, totally terrifying, you just know it wasn't real. You trust your own judgment. Of course you do.
Look, I know that's blunt, but the science and the history on this is just crystal clear. That fortress you call a mind, it's got some pretty major vulnerabilities.
Here's the thing. Your perception of the world isn't really objective. Nope. It's hugely influenced by the people around you. Think about it. If everyone in a room suddenly started screaming that the house is on fire, you will start to smell smoke, even if there isn't a single flame. That's how powerful group belief can be.
There is this fundamental glitch, a flaw in our wiring, that allows pure fear to bypass all our rational thought and spread directly from person to person. It can make you see things that are not there, feel real pain with no physical cause, and yeah, even turn on your own neighbors to save yourself from a threat that doesn't even exist.
So what exactly is this phenomenon? Well, in scientific terms, it's called mass psychogenic illness. It's a condition where real symptoms spread through a population without any infectious agent. To understand how that's even possible, we have to look at the biology first.
And I want to be clear, this isn't some kind of magic or paranormal event. It is a documented, incredibly powerful function of the human brain. And it all kicks off with something called the Nocebo Effect.
So we've all heard of the placebo effect, right? You believe a simple sugar pill is a powerful medicine, and your brain actually starts releasing chemicals to heal your body. Well, the nocebo effect is its evil twin. If you genuinely believe you've been cursed or that you've been exposed to something that will make you sick, your brain releases a flood of stress hormones that can create very real, very physical symptoms. Your belief literally becomes your biology.
Okay, so that explains how one person can literally scare themselves sick. But how does that private terror jump from one mind to another and another until it infects an entire community? How does it scale?
Well, it spreads through a few key glitches in our programming. First up is social mimicry. We are just hardwired to copy the emotions and actions of our tribe. It's automatic. Second, when we're under extreme stress, our brain's fear center, the amygdala, it just hijacks our rational thought. It's an old evolutionary shortcut. You know, if one monkey in the troop sees a lion and runs, the rest don't stop to ask questions. They just run. It's a survival instinct. But what happens when the lion isn't real?
To see how this plays out in the real world, we need to go to one of the most infamous cases in all of history. We're going to dissect a real-world witch hunt in Salem Village, Massachusetts, 1692.
You have to understand, Salem Village was the perfect petri dish for a psychological virus to grow. I mean, they were dealing with a brutal winter, literal starvation, the constant threat of attack from surrounding tribes, and deadly smallpox epidemics. And on top of all of that, their very rigid Puritan theology taught them that Satan was a real, tangible, active force trying to destroy them from within. They were living in a pressure cooker of constant extreme stress.
The whole thing ignited with two young girls, Betty Paris and Abigail Williams, who started having these bizarre, violent fits. The local doctor couldn't find any physical cause, so he declared the evil hand is upon them. Now, that diagnosis wasn't just a medical opinion. It was basically a permission slip for madness. It finally gave the community a name for all their nameless fears: witchcraft.
So what was actually happening to these girls? Well, modern psychology has a pretty good idea. It was likely conversion disorder. Think about it. In that incredibly repressive Puritan society, these girls had zero power, no voice. All that stress, all that anxiety and trauma, it had to go somewhere. So their brains just converted that psychological pain into real physical symptoms. And when they saw these symptoms got them attention and power, the behavior was subconsciously reinforced.
And this is where the hysteria just went completely off the rails. The court decided to allow something called spectral evidence. Essentially, the accusers could claim that an invisible spirit, a specter, of the person on trial was attacking them, right there in the courtroom. It was an unfalsifiable claim. I mean, how do you prove your ghost wasn't pinching someone across the room? You can't. The legal system just broke.
And the courtroom became a theater of the absurd. The girls, who were now the center of everyone's attention, would suddenly start screaming, pointing up at the ceiling, accusing the person on trial.
They'd shout a specific detail, something like,
It is a yellow bird. And here's the truly terrifying part. In that high-stress, paranoid, supercharged environment of the courtroom, other people, grown men, judges, started seeing the yellow bird too. This is hallucination by consensus. The reality of the mob completely replaced the reality of the individual.
The consequences were deadly real. By the time this whole fever finally burned itself out, 20 innocent people had been executed. 19 were hanged, and one poor man suffered an even more brutal fate.
That man was Giles Corey. He was an 81-year-old farmer who just refused to participate in the whole charade. By refusing to plead guilty or not guilty, he broke the rules of their twisted game. So they pressed him to death with heavy stones. His defiant last words were simply, "More weight." He literally chose to die rather than validate their lie.
Now, it's really easy to look back at Salem and judge them, right? Oh, those superstitious people. But are we really so different? The kind of defiance that Giles Corey showed is incredibly rare. That psychological virus, though, oh, it's still with us. It just wears a more modern mask.
I mean, just think of the satanic panic in the 80s, which put daycare workers in jail based on the completely fantastical, coerced testimony of children. Or what about the recent TikTok tick phenomenon, where teenagers started developing Tourette's-like symptoms after binge-watching videos of it? We see the exact same mechanics in online mobs that can destroy a person's life over a rumor before a single fact is ever checked. The pattern is always the same: high stress, a visible trigger, a scapegoat, and a contagion of fear.
So this brings us to the most crucial question of all. How do you protect yourself from this? How do you keep your head when it seems like everyone around you is losing theirs? Well, you need an anchor, a rationality anchor. And here's the protocol.
Okay, here are 3 really powerful steps. First, isolate. Hysteria absolutely needs a crowd to survive, so step away. Physically remove yourself. Turn off the news, get off social media, and just ask yourself, would I feel this way if I were completely alone? Second, demand evidence. Feelings are not facts. Refuse to act on emotional appeals or hearsay. Feelings are contagious, facts are not. And third, find the source. Every panic has an origin, a patient zero. Trace the fear back to where it started and ask the most important question: who benefits from this panic? Once you see the manipulator, the spell is broken.
So in the end, the witches of Salem weren't the monsters. The real monster was our own human capacity to abandon reason for fear, to believe a lie simply because it's being shouted by a crowd. We are all susceptible. The only defense is to be vigilant, to anchor ourselves in what is real, and to have the courage to listen for the quiet truth underneath all that noise. So the question is, are you ready to do that?